What if I told you could get anywhere from 2 all the way up to 5% cash back on most of your everyday purchases just by using credit cards strategically? In our last video, we went over my top 9 favorite credit cards, which I use to get that 2 to 5% cash back on most purchases, like groceries, restaurants, takeout and delivery, online shopping, gas, and more. In this video, we'll go over how to use our credit cards strategically to get as much cash back as possible with our current credit cards, and perhaps a new one, and I'll be using those 9 credit cards that I personally use as a real example to show how the savings stack up. Welcome to Walliterate, I'm Ashley. On this channel, we talk about all things budgeting, saving up, and saving money. If you like this kind of content and want to see more, be sure to click like and subscribe. It really helps our videos get in front of more people to help them save money, and it's absolutely free. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor or accountant. This video is for general educational purposes only. No official financial advice is being given. Be sure to always consult a professional before making any investments or financial decisions. The offers and information provided in the video are accurate at the time of the posting date, but may not be in the future. If you make a purchase or apply for an offer using one of the affiliate links provided, I may receive a commission at no charge to you. First off, keep in mind it does take time to acquire a decent amount of credit cards. Aiming for applying for 1 card a year is a good rule of thumb, but it depends on a lot of factors, including your credit report. The cards on my top 9 list generally offer great overall rewards, so you can apply for one and get some decent savings just from that. Of course, you'll need a pretty good credit score to be approved for most of the cards on the list. Let's first go over how you can structure your spending with your current cards, and maybe a new one, to get the most bang for your buck, and then we'll take a look at an example of this in action. Step 1. Figure out which credit cards you have and your current rewards for those cards. It's usually best to remove any cards that don't offer any cashback rewards from the running. Also keep in mind that sometimes credit card rewards change down the line, so it's important to confirm what your current rewards are, especially for older credit cards. For our example, I'll use my top 9 credit cards as the cards in the running for my spending plan. Step 2. Consider applying for a new card if you think it's worth it to bump up your rewards. This step is totally optional, but if you find that your credit card rewards aren't that great, you might want to add a new card to the mix. Since it takes time to get a new credit card in the mail, and there's a chance you could be denied, this is considered a bonus option that you shouldn't focus too much on. Some store debit cards are also a good alternative to a credit card, especially if you have a few new accounts or inquiries on your credit report and want to avoid applying for a new card. For our example, I'll go with applying for the Target debit card as my bonus card. This is a debit card, so it doesn't affect your credit, and it'll give you 5% off all new purchases made with the card. Since I go to Target all the time, it's a great pick for my lifestyle. Step 3. List out your expenses, highest to lowest. This is really just looking at your current budget to see which credit card categories you're spending the most money on that you're able to get cash back on. For most people, that's things like groceries, dining, including dining in, takeout and delivery, gas, online shopping, rideshares, and streaming. Also be sure to include an other category for all miscellaneous purchases you may make with your credit cards, like car and health insurance, for example. The spend amount you give for each category doesn't have to be exact. Just a rough estimate or a general range is enough. You'll want to list each category out in order, from what you spend the most on to what you spend the least on. At the end of the day, it's most important to optimize the cash back for the categories you spend the most on, so you can get the most cash back in your wallet. At the end, be sure to also include some categories that you don't normally spend on, but occasionally do. My top spending categories are groceries, dining, gas, online shopping, streaming, and other. I also occasionally spend on rideshares, drugstores, home improvement and furnishings, as well as travel. Step 4. Pick your preferred card for each spending category. Now the time's come to weigh the cashback options available for each of your spending categories. Always start from the biggest cash rewards available for each spending category. Often it's around 5% cashback, to the lowest for each category, which is usually 1% cashback. Keep in mind that credit cards may also have limitations set for how much cashback you can get for a category. For example, if one of your credit cards offers you 2% cashback on gas, but another offers 3%, you'll obviously want to use the card that offers 3% for your gas purchases, up to any cashback limit set by the card, and then use the 2% card for any purchases over the cashback limit to optimize your rewards. It's not always an exact science. Sometimes we'll need to make different purchases from what we usually do, or we'll need to spend more money in a given category than normal, in which case we can also run the risk of going over the cashback limit set for the card. Ideally, it's best to have cards with decent rewards, let's say 3% and up, for the categories you spend the most on. At the end of the day, the cashback percentages don't matter if you're not actually buying items in those specific categories. If you have revolving category credit cards, I highly recommend assessing the 5% cashback revolving categories for your cards before each quarter, so you can plan out your preferred cards for making purchases in those next 3 months. To give you an idea of how to do this, I'll provide an example by using my own monthly spending habits and preferred cards. The top 9 credit cards I refer to here are all covered in depth in my last video. So if you missed the video and want to learn more about these cards, you can watch it after this video. Number 1. I usually spend the most on groceries. Currently, it's between $400 to $500 a month. I would do the 5% cashback on groceries for the first 12 months that the Chase Freedom Flex card offers if I were applying for the card. But since I already have it and can't get that benefit, I instead use my Citi Custom Cash Card for 5% cash back on my highest eligible spend category, groceries, which is capped at $500 a month, so it's just right for me. If I do spend more than $500 in a given month, after nearing that limit, I would switch to the Bank of the West Cashback World Credit Card or the American Express Blue Cash Everyday Credit Card for 3% cash back. The only exceptions if a revolving category from the Discover It Cashback Credit Card or the Chase Freedom Flex Credit Card offered 5% cash back. Number 2. I generally spend about $50 to $100 a month on dining. If I got the Chase Freedom Flex card offer of 5% cash back on groceries, I would pick the Citi Custom Cash Card for dining if I ate mostly at restaurants. But since I mostly get takeout and also can't get that Chase offer, I instead use the 4% cashback offer on restaurants, takeout, and delivery through the US Bank Altitude Go Visa Signature Credit Card. Of course, if dining's covered in one of the 5% cashback revolving categories that quarter from the Chase Freedom Flex card or the Discover It Cashback card, I would go with that 5%. Number 3. I don't drive much, so I spend about $30 to $50 a month on gas. I use either the Bank of the West Cashback World Credit Card or the American Express Blue Cash Everyday Credit Card to get 3% cash back on eligible gas purchases. If the revolving categories from my Chase or Discover card included gas that quarter, then I'd opt for that 5% cash back. Number 4. I don't do much online shopping outside of buying household items, so I probably spend about $10 to $40 a month there. I usually use the American Express Blue Cash Everyday Credit Card for online retail purchases for the 3% cash back. Number 5. I spend about $15 a month on streaming services. I use the US Bank Altitude Go Visa Signature Credit Card for streaming services, so I get that $15 credit each year. It works out to be about 8% cash back for me. Number 6. My other purchases vary every month, but I usually spend about $50 to $300 every month in miscellaneous purchases. For any miscellaneous purchases, I stick to my Wells Fargo Active Cash Credit Card, where I can get straight 2% cash back. Number 7. I rarely use ride shares and do check prices on both Lyft and Uber. I'll estimate that at $0 to $30 a month. If I do use Lyft for my rideshare, I use the Chase Freedom Flex card to get that 5% cash back on Lyft, which is valid through March 31st, 2025. Number 8. Travel, drugstores, and home improvement and furnishings are all usually $0 a month for me. But if I did spend on those categories one month, this is what I'd do. For travel, I'd first look into both the 5% cashback offer on hotels and rental cars booked through Capital One and the 5% cashback offer for airline tickets, hotel accommodations, car rentals, activities, and cruises booked through Chase. For drugstores, I'd go with the Chase Freedom Flex card for that 3% cashback. For home improvement and furnishings, or for other travel expenses not addressed through Capital One or Chase, I would pick one of those categories to do the 3% cashback from the Bank of America Customized Cash Rewards credit card. You can change your choice once a month, so it's pretty flexible. If I wanted to get some new furniture for my new place, for instance, I might pick that if no other cards were offering better rewards. Or if I was planning a trip, I might switch to the travel category and get that 3% if I couldn't get a better offer from a different card. Number 9. Now for our bonus card. For any purchases at Target, I'll plan to apply for a Target debit card and use it each time I buy something there, both in-store and online, to get that 5% cash back each time. For now, I'll stick to the plan I just discussed with regard to in-person and online shopping at Target, and then once I get the debit card, I'll use it for all Target purchases. That wraps up how I use my credit cards to save 2 to 5% across the board, and how you can plan your spending on a quarterly basis to get the most cash back you can from the credit cards you already have, as well as any new cards you apply for. If you're interested in any of the credit cards I talked about in this video, check out this video next, where I go into detail on the rewards of each of these cards. How much cash back are you getting with your credit cards? Are there any cards you're thinking of getting to get even more rewards? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to click like and subscribe. If you want to be notified when we post new videos, make sure to also hit that notification bell when subscribing. Thanks for watching and see you next time.